We would like to introduce now our special guest speaker. This year, Lambert Voron is our guest speaker at our closing session this morning, obviously. So is a successful TV and radio voiceover actress who has recorded commercials from American Express, Verizon, BP, Hanes, and Pepperidge Farm. She was diagnosed with alopecia areata at age 16 and created the Ali Bratz Project, which you may remember from last year's conference, that brings bald dolls to bald kids. Ali will discuss how the disease inspired her to support children with alopecia areata and the joy she experiences from helping others. And I have to say, I met her last fall and at Donna and Matt Pelican, or mixing people, Donna and Matt Hakeum's fundraiser, and her family, and she was pregnant, and she showed a picture of her ultrasound, and it was so great to see the baby. And then the baby was born, and I'm friends with her on Facebook. And the coolest thing she does is every week that the baby's another week older, they take a picture of the baby with a sign or blocks that say like 1 week or 2 weeks or something. So she's truly our youngest person here. She was up here modeling a week before. Hopefully she can always just do that for fun. But please give a big welcome to Ali.
Thank you, Maureen, so much for that introduction. That was so nice, and thanks for mentioning the baby and having met. It was great to meet you. I am so happy to be here today. I'm humbled, I'm honored. It's just such an honor for me. And I first want to thank everyone at NAAF for having me here, because it means the world to me. Abby, Vicky, Jeannie, you guys really were so amazing getting me ready for this and inviting me and my family. And I'm just so happy to be here. Donna Hakeum, thanks for all of your advice and insight. It means the world to me. Couldn't have done it without you. And all of you, thank you so much for spending the next 25 minutes with me as I talk about my experiences with alopecia and how it led me to wanting to help kids with alopecia. So first, I'll just quickly introduce myself again. I'm Lambert Voron. I'm from New York City, or a little bit outside of New York City. I'm a voiceover actress. I do a little bit of motivational speaking. And I have Alopecia Universalis. Ever since I was diagnosed with alopecia at 16 years old, I always felt like there was a reason that it happened to me. I truly believed that I was supposed to have alopecia, that it was part of my journey in life, and that along the way I would find out what that reason was. So today I want to share with you some of my experiences with alopecia, by highlighting the pivotal moments in my life where I came to realize that having alopecia was truly part of my destiny. Let me begin with where I came from. I grew up in the suburbs outside of Philadelphia in a town called Newtown Square. Here's a picture of my family. This was in 1991. We've always been a very tight-knit family. My mom and dad, Diane and Ross, are incredible parents, and I have two younger sisters who to this day are my closest friends. That's me at the top of the photo with the blonde hair and the braces and the bangs. So I was always all about my hair. From a very young age, it was something that really defined me. Here I am as a kid. You can see I had curly blonde locks as a baby, and then as I got older, I started playing around a little bit. Can you tell I was a child of the 80s? Here I am as a teenager, a year before I was diagnosed with alopecia. You can see that I wore my hair straight, I wore my hair curly. My hair was a huge part of me, and I certainly never imagined not having any. Over the summer when I was 16 years old, I noticed a bald spot on my head. It was a little round patch, like a quarter size, and we thought, oh, maybe my ponytail holder was too tight, and I pulled it out. Something must have happened, but never thought anything else. Then another patch, then another patch. By the time I had 5 or 6 patches, we thought, something's going on here. So we went from doctor to doctor to doctor to doctor. I don't know if it's the same now, but at that point, nobody seemed to know what it was. Maybe some of you can relate to that. One doctor said you might have this illness called lupus, and it's this serious thing, and it could be a side effect of the disease. Another one said, you might be pulling out your hair. It's an emotional disorder, and I want you to pay attention when you're at school. Are you pulling it out, and are you twisting your eyebrows out? And I was thinking, what? I'm doing that, but I went paid attention at school to see if I was pulling my hair out. Obviously, none of this was the case, and after weeks of misdiagnosis, we met with a doctor who immediately knew it was alopecia. At that point, Alopecia Areata, which eventually became Universalis. Well, as a 16-year-old kid, this was not welcome news. The fact that I was going to lose some or all of my hair, I had a disease. What was that about? It was certainly upsetting and scary and not what I would ever choose to happen. But because the way it happened, that we had gone through all of these doctors, and these misdiagnoses, and all of these things where we'd heard the worst, and we really thought the worst, when we heard that it was alopecia, just hair loss, not illness, not an emotional disorder, it wasn't anything I was doing, there was a piece of me that really was relieved. And that relief really affected the way that I have seen alopecia from the very beginning. My parents also did something that really, really helped. They made it clear to me that I was in the position from the very beginning to make a choice how I would deal with alopecia. I could either choose to feel sorry for myself, I could throw myself a pity party, as my dad always said, or I could crumble to the floor in a heap, or I could deal with what I had, I could find the bright side in the situation, and I could be okay. And I think it was a brilliant move by my parents because I thought to myself, okay, I could either choose to feel bad or I could choose to feel good. I'd rather choose to feel good. I decided I was going to be proud of losing my hair. I was going to be normal. I was going to continue to fit in with everybody else. And I truly came to believe it didn't mean I was different now that I had alopecia. I might look different, but I wasn't different. I was the exact same person, and I was just losing my hair. It put everything into perspective, and from then on, alopecia was just alopecia. A condition where I would lose some or all of my hair, and that was it. During my entire junior year of high school, my hair continued to fall out. I went to a smaller school, so everybody knew everything going on with everyone, and of course everyone knew what was happening with me. Towards the end of that year, it was time to get a wig. This was going to be tough. The whole wig thing in general was not something I was excited about. As we went shopping for wigs, I found myself in the company with many women who were sick going through chemotherapy. And for me, this was suddenly challenging my no big deal role because I was around all of these people who were really sick. Instead of feeling good about it, it was making me feel like maybe I was sick or something. So I was kind of lost during this whole period and a little bit devastated. It was probably the hardest point for me with alopecia that I can remember. But my parents stuck by me and my sisters stuck by me and I somehow got through it. I thought a wig was the only option at that point too because I never imagined losing all of my hair. So when I finally picked a wig, I decided to go with one that was really different from what my hair was before. So this is a picture of me with the wig. It was short, it was almost red. Since I was having such a hard time, I thought, why not have fun with it and be clearly wearing a wig, something very different from what my hair looked like. The next event that really had an impact on me took place at the end of that school year. It was time for the student government elections at my high school, and I decided to run for president of the school. I needed to make a speech in front of the entire school, and I needed it to be funny and memorable, and I needed to win. So I decided to broach the topic of alopecia head on, no pun intended. And I made a slideshow of famous leaders whose footsteps I wanted to follow in. But I put a little twist on it. So here are a few of the slides that I showed from that speech. I said that the first leader who I wanted to follow was Gandhi. Notice his hairstyle. The next leader who inspired me was President Eisenhower. Again, check out his hair. The third slide was the famous leading actor Telly Savalas. You can see where I was going with this. And then finally I told the audience that I wanted to follow in the footsteps of the leader of household cleaning products. I wanted everyone to understand that I could make fun of myself and make light of the fact that I was losing my hair. Just a side note, at this point I was still wearing the wig. I ended the campaign speech exclaiming that I knew I could lead my school as well as any of these leaders before me, and no matter what happened to my hair, nothing would stop me. And then I showed this slide. Long story short, I won the election and became president of my school. The whole experience was a real turning point for me. First, I realized that being bald would really be okay. It also hit me that I could use alopecia to my advantage. Instead of looking at it as something that would be a weakness, it could be a strength. Another thing that came from it was I now understood that if I viewed alopecia as no big deal, everybody else would view alopecia as no big deal. Ever since that school election, I've always been proud of having alopecia, been proud of looking different, and been proud of overcoming something that I think could have been a lot worse. I actually only wore the wig for a couple of months. I just wasn't comfortable. It just wasn't for me. And I decided I was happier without anything on my head. And from then on, I've always gone bald. One quick story. I remember right after I stopped wearing the wig, I was driving home from school and something kind of crazy happened. At the time, I was driving my family's Jeep Wrangler, the kind of Jeep with no top and no sides. You could totally see in and see me. I wasn't wearing the wig. I just stopped. I pulled up to a red light, and to my right, there was a car full of high school boys who I didn't know. They didn't go to my school. One of them saw me, got the attention of all of his friends in the car, and they all started berating me, screaming, yelling, pointing, laughing. It was horrible. Of course, this could have killed my confidence, killed my bravery, and made me feel awful for deciding not to wear the wig. But in one split second, I thought about my parents and how they told me I had a choice. And I could crumble or I could win, and I immediately knew what I needed to do. I reached into my glove compartment, fully aware of what was still in there. I pulled this out, I looked in the mirror, and I just started doing this. Stopped, the light turned green, I slammed my foot on the gas and peeled away. I would have loved to have seen the guys' faces. But I felt awesome, and for me it was a very liberating moment. The next pivotal event that really affected how I viewed alopecia happened shortly after this. A friend of our family decided to write a story about my experience with alopecia, and it was to be included in a new book series called Chicken Soup for the Soul. Many of you may know that book series. Our story, called No Hair Day, touched on everything that had happened to me with alopecia, from the first bald patch, to the doctors, to the bald leaders, finally not wearing the wig. It was published in Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul, and then later in Chicken Soup for the Teenage Soul, and was on all the shelves in all of the major bookstores. The interesting thing that happened is that they published my name and my address in the back of the book, along with all of the other authors and people in the book. And I started to receive all of these letters in response to my story. I heard from other children who had alopecia, from people with hair loss from chemotherapy, and even from people who hadn't lost their hair. It seemed like everyone who was writing to me could relate in some way or another to having to go through a struggle in life, and my story was comforting them. That's the first time I truly understood that I was meant to have alopecia. I've always believed that everything happens for a reason. And the reason that I got alopecia was to help others get through tough times. I felt like I wanted to share my message that I'd learned through my situation. When things get tough, you ultimately have a choice. You can crumble and throw that pity party, or you can beat it and you can win. Hearing from all of these strangers made me realize I could touch people internationally. I was hearing from people in all different languages. And universally, because I was hearing from people not only who had alopecia, but about anything. I decided that I wanted to share this message whenever I could, and from then on, I've spoken at elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, even business organizations in the US and abroad about overcoming obstacles in life, and I feel thankful that I get to do it because of alopecia. The next event that had an effect on me was when I began my professional career. After high school, I applied to the University of Pennsylvania, which was an Ivy League school, which was a huge reach for me. But I decided to write my application essay about alopecia. Of course, why not use it? And I wound up getting in. Penn was a huge door opener for me after college, and I moved to New York City where I started a career in advertising and TV commercials. And I wound up landing a job, as you heard, as a professional voiceover actress. You've probably heard me many times on TV. You heard some of the companies that I've worked for, but American Express, Weight Watchers, Hanes, Visa, a lot of work with Nickelodeon, MTV, VH1, really pretty successful career. Anyway, in my career, I noticed that being bald and standing out was a bonus. As I met people in the industry, they would remember me as the bald girl, and it started to help me get a lot of voiceover gigs. Here's a picture of my headshot and my business card. I never want anyone in business to forget who I am, and being bald has certainly helped, and I love alopecia for that. Moving on, one of the best weekends of my life is the next momentous event I want to share with you. I was 27 years old. I was going on vacation with my two best girlfriends. We were going to New Orleans, Louisiana for Jazz Fest. And it was a girls' weekend. Girls only, no guys. We were all single. We were going to enjoy each other, have fun, just about the girls. Well, lo and behold, our first night in New Orleans, I meet this person named Mike. We hit it off immediately. We never left each other's side the entire weekend. It truly was love at first sight, and I don't think I spent a single moment with my girlfriends the whole weekend. In fact, I remember crying to them on the plane the whole way home because I was so sad to leave Mike. Here's a photo of Mike and I from that weekend. We left New Orleans promising each other that we would continue our relationship, and once I was back in New York and he was in Boston, and we did. For over a year, we had a long-distance relationship, and then Mike moved to New York so we could have a house together. The reason I wanted to share this story is that I truly believe that my connection with Mike that weekend and moving forward is because of alopecia. That might sound weird, so let me explain. Mike was no stranger to dealing with struggles as a kid. Mike has a younger brother named David who has many disabilities. He has mental retardation, epilepsy, bipolar disorder, and diabetes. So he's Mike's only brother, so from a very young age, when Mike was 3 and when David was born, Mike knew what it was like to grow up with challenges. Mike is without a doubt one of the most compassionate and caring people I've ever met in my life, probably the most. And I know that what bonded us together that weekend in New Orleans, and forever, is that we saw such strength in each other for everything we'd both been through in our young lives. I always think that having alopecia literally led me to the man of my dreams. A year after Mike moved to New York, he proposed and we started planning our wedding. Here's our official wedding invitation. Of course, we had to throw a little silliness in there. And then the following year, we got married. Here's one photo from our wedding right after we cut the cake. I love Mike. Now, there's something else I want to share with you that happens all the time to me, and many of you may be able to relate to this, but it really makes me appreciate having alopecia. It's something that wasn't always easy for me, and it took me some time to come to terms with what it meant for me. But to this day, it's now something that I cherish with all of my heart. Because I choose to walk around without a wig, I certainly draw a good amount of attention wherever I go. I think that most people in this world don't really know about alopecia, or don't think alopecia when they see someone who's bald. They think chemotherapy, swimmer, something else. As a teenager and when I was in my 20s, this was really bothersome to me. I didn't want people to think I was sick. I didn't even want people to think I was a swimmer. I was just me. And I didn't want to be grouped with the people suffering from cancer. As you know, I've always treated alopecia as just a thing I had, not a disease or an illness. And when people assumed I was sick, it tugged at something that just bothered me. More than that, people would approach me all of the time and ask me if I was going through chemo. For some reason, this used to make me uncomfortable and actually resent that I had alopecia. Out of the corner of my eye, this is what would happen. I would see someone walking towards me and I would think, oh no, like here they come. Again, they're gonna ask me about chemotherapy and I just don't feel like talking to them right now. But I didn't have a choice in the matter. I was the one that chose to go out without a wig, and if this is what it brought, then so be it. When people would approach and ask if I was going through chemo, I learned how to just swallow hard, explain that I wasn't going through chemo, that it was just alopecia, and then I would carefully ask them if they had experience with cancer. 9 times out of 10, the answer was yes. Either they had battled cancer, or someone very close to them had been through cancer. This is when I came to see that they wanted to share with me their story. They wanted to tell me about their challenges or brag about their victories, and I realized I could fulfill this need just by listening to them, and so I did. It got easier as time went on, and I really started to appreciate these tender moments with complete strangers, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. I live in New York City, it's crowded. And today, it's something I truly love. It really makes me feel so good to listen, and in most cases, I assume it makes them feel good too. The bottom line, I was meant to help others. I was meant to have alopecia. The last thing I want to share with you about my journey with alopecia is brief, but I think it's important. After Mike and I got married, we had a couple of really tough things happen in our lives. I wound up getting diagnosed with another autoimmune disease called ulcerative colitis, and I was really sick for about 4 years. I actually almost died a few times. It was a nightmare. It got so bad that in January of 2011, I had a major abdominal surgery and I had my entire colon removed. At the same time, and now I'm better. At the same time, Mike's amazing mom, Judy, my mother-in-law, was diagnosed with incurable brain cancer. It was an awful, awful period in our lives. Mike had spent years helping me through my disease, colitis, and then 6 months helping his mom as she struggled with hers. 1 week after I had my surgery to remove my colon in 2011, Mike's mom passed away. We were beyond devastated to lose our special Judy. It took us months to even begin to deal with everything that had happened, but one thing that really carried me through this entire time, my illness and Judy, was that I actually had learned how to cope when I had alopecia. I developed all of these coping skills as a 16-year-old when I lost my hair, and when it came time years later to deal with something more serious, 2 things more serious, I really knew what I needed to do. Just like with alopecia, again, I had a choice. I could feel sorry for myself, I could stay in bed every day, which is really physically what I needed and wanted to do, and I could crumble, or I could get up every day, go to work, live, cope, deal, make it through, and just like with alopecia, I decided I wasn't going to let it beat me. Thankfully, we made it out of those tough years and are even stronger for having going through them. But I really appreciate what having alopecia has done for me in the big picture. And I know, no matter what comes my way in life, I'll be able to get through it. I think that's pretty cool, thanks to alopecia. On a positive note, Mike and I have never been happier in our lives than we are today. We decided last year that we were ready to start a family, and on March 11th, I gave birth to a little girl who we named after Mike's mom, Judy. Her name is Joey Love, and here she is, and a lot of you have seen her around this weekend, but she's the best thing that has ever happened to us, and after all we've been through, she really is a miracle. So I want to shift gears for the last few minutes that I'm up here, but before I do, I want to quickly introduce you to my family who came here to support me this weekend. So family, can you stand up for a minute? Love and support that I've gotten from all of you and the instilling of confidence that I continue to get from all of you. I'm so happy you could be here with me, and I love you all, so thank you so much for being here. So moving on, I shared with you many experiences that I had with alopecia over the years, and how a lot of those experiences led me to believe that I was meant to have it. But I always felt like I needed to do something bigger, something more visible, something that I would feel like I was affecting many people at one time. And last year, I found my first opportunity to do that, and it actually involved many of you. Some of you may remember me from the convention last year, and some may not, but I want to tell you about Bald Dolls for Bald Kids, which used to be known as the Allie Bratz Project. We just changed the name. Last summer, a friend of mine sent me an article about the Bratz True Hope Collection, a brand new line of Bratz dolls that had no hair, in an effort to support children going through chemotherapy. I thought the dolls were amazing. They were adorable and funky and cool, and I knew that anybody who had alopecia would love to have them. They even have no eyebrows, like a lot of us. Mike and I started brainstorming how could we get these dolls into the hands of a lot of kids with alopecia, and suddenly it hit us. We had heard that NAAF's annual convention was 3 weeks later in Washington, D.C., 3 weeks later, and there would be hundreds of kids with alopecia in one place. We'd never been to a NAAF conference, and it seemed like it was the perfect opportunity. We could buy dolls for all of the kids and bring them to Washington, D.C. to hand out. But we didn't have the money to buy all of the dolls ourselves. So we started an online fundraiser using a site called causebox.com. I posted the CauseVox link on my Facebook page, and I sent emails to everyone I knew. It was amazing what happened. People started donating money like crazy, and in less than 2 weeks, we had what we needed to buy 400 dolls and bring them to DC. In the meantime, we kept the campaign going for that last week and allowed people to keep donating money. By the time we left for Washington, more than 300 donors had given money to support us and make it possible to deliver dolls to all of the kids. My mom and dad came with Mike and I to help hand out the dolls.
I remember that. So sweet.
Here we are at the convention. We set up dolls on Saturday morning, as many of you may remember, and all of them were on a table for the kids to walk by and pick whichever doll they wanted. There was 6 different types of dolls, 6 different characters. Here's a picture of us at the convention with a lot of the kids. Then the kids started arriving, and it was just amazing. They seemed excited to see the ball dolls, to have a chance to pick their favorite, and then to take it home. It was an unforgettable and extremely rewarding experience, and it was amazing to watch the kids and even a lot of the parents when they saw the dolls for the first time. For me, it was an incredibly humbling experience every step of the project, from the brainstorming session with Mike, to all of the details, to the final delivery of the convention. It confirmed to me again that having alopecia has been the vehicle for me to do greater things in life, and I'm truly thankful for that. We wound up having a good number of dolls left over after the conference, and we started working with other organizations to bring them to kids who have lost their hair. We met Donna and Matt Hakem at the convention last year and brought some dolls to their annual Let Your Hair Down event in New Jersey. And we've been working with some hospitals in our area in New York and in Philadelphia, where we grew up, to bring the dolls to kids who have lost their hair due to chemotherapy. It's continuing to be more rewarding than we ever expected. Mike and I have now been brainstorming about our next project. Of course, we'll be supporting kids with alopecia again, and we have some really interesting ideas that we're really excited about, so you have to stay tuned to hear about that. I'll be updating the Ball Dolls for Ball Kids Facebook page, and we'll be revealing all of the details there about our next project. So when you get home, feel free to like the page, to like the Facebook page. It's facebook.com/AllieBratzProject, and we can stay in touch and you'll know what we're doing next. Also, feel free to send me an email anytime. My email address is on my website. I just put the website here, which is allielambert.com. I thought it might be easier to remember, but anybody, please feel free to email me after this weekend or anytime, ever. I want to close with one final message for everyone. We all face adversity in life, whether it be that we have alopecia, that we have pimples, that our parents get divorced, that we lose somebody close to us. Things happen. We all face adversity. When adversity strikes, I believe there are 3 things that can really help you get through it. And those are feel it, accept it, beat it. Feel it. Don't bury your feelings. There's no question that getting diagnosed with alopecia is surprising and not what anyone would choose. If you're sad, cry. If you're angry, yell. If you're frustrated, whine. Feel it. Accept it. This may take some time, but what else can you do? It's out of your control. This may be your new reality. Come to terms with it and accept it. Beat it. It's your choice. You decide if it beats you or if you beat it. Look at the bright side of the situation and turn the negative into a positive. Beat it. Make the decision today to feel it, accept it, and beat it. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for sharing this time with me. I'm so appreciative for everybody getting to stay. Thank you so much. Last year at the conference, a couple of the moms coming up and saying, after they got the dolls, to say, oh my God, my daughter has a doll that looks like her. And that's life-changing. So thank you for all you've done and for helping us. Our second surprise of the morning, if I could ask Josh and Kaya Lang to please come up.